The wash process, sometimes known as wet process, is commonly found in many coffee-growing countries around the world, including parts of Africa and most of Central and South America. The methods and equipment used to perform this type of processing are different from place to place, but the design remains universal. It's designed to remove the coffee fruit from the coffee seed quickly and thoroughly after the coffee is picked, so that it can be dried clean in its parchment layer. In this video, we'll be exploring just one example of the wash process by following along with a producer washing his coffee in the highlands of Peru. Generally speaking, the wash process can be an efficient way to prepare coffee seeds for export in climates that have cool overnight temperatures and good sun exposure during the day. It's also a space saver for small producers who do their own wet milling and some of their own drying on their property, as we'll see in this video from Finca Ecológica. To begin, coffee is harvested ripe when the coffee is dark red, bright red, purple, or yellow, depending on the variety or cultivar. The cherry is selectively picked by hand and carried to a receiving point. At this farm, the cherry is delivered to an area around a small mechanical depulping machine, which is equipment commonly found on farms in Latin America. Before being depulped, it's weighed, rinsed, and given a first sort for quality. Some producers do what's called a float test of their coffee cherries. They submerge the cherries in water and scoop off any cherries that float to the top of the tank, which is a sign of a defect. Whole coffee fruit is then put through the depulper. This machine squeezes the seed out of the tough cherry-like skin, which is known as the fruit's pulp. Depulping typically happens as soon as possible in the wash process, usually within 8 to 12 hours of the harvest. After depulping, the seeds are still covered in their sticky fruit material, which is called mucilage. This mucilage is removed throughout the washing process. The sticky seeds are typically transferred to a fermentation tank. The pulp left over is usually used for compost or fuel, or it's discarded. Here you can see that the fermentation tank is made from ceramic tile, and the coffee is collected in a pile in the bottom of the tank. In this case, the sticky seeds are kept dry in an open fermentation style, which means they're not submerged in water during the fermentation. The seeds will be left like this overnight to ferment in the tank. Fermentation happens in every type of post-harvest processing, but in the wash process, the producer tries to moderate the time and temperature, as well as the velocity of the fermentation process. Fermentation is useful because it will help soften the fruit mucilage, making it easier to remove in the washing. The next day, the actual washing begins. The producer first makes sure that the mucilage has fermented enough by inspecting a sample with his hands to feel how sticky or tacky the material is. He then fills the tank with fresh water to submerge the coffee. While the coffee is still submerged, he'll agitate it with a long wooden tool. The vigorous agitation in the water removes the mucilage, leaving the coffee clean in its parchment layer and ready for drying. You can see how the water becomes murky as it starts to fill with mucilage material.